In this short video, I want to discuss a template that I believe exists in academic writing. So if for smaller papers, articles, and I believe it also carries over to some book-length material, but learning this template will definitely help you in the type of writing that you'll need to do in some of your college classes. Not necessarily just writing, but the type of data interpretation and presentation. And if you think in terms of the your work with the data as say a box that has its beginning and its end, I want you to think of the different stages this box can have. All right, so I'm going to draw a diagram of this, and my whole push in these classes has been to get you to recognize this in the writing you've done, in the reading you've done, and to imitate it in the writing. And depending on the time of the semesters in the class, sometimes we get farther along this template than at other times. So at whatever point we're on, I need you to be able to understand the whole. Anyway, so let's take a look at the diagram. If your work is a box like this or a square like this, excuse me, we can divide it up into three sections. We can say, you know, I would say it should represent something like this, okay? This is your start, your beginning, this is your middle, and this is your end, okay? Now, some common terms for this would be your intro, and this would be your body, and this would be your conclusion, okay? But I don't like those terms. And I have really hesitated to use these terms at any point in our class in relation to your research work. I don't want to call this the intro. This, okay, actually I'm okay with this as the body. But this, I don't want to call it the conclusion, because for me, conclusion means thesis. The statement that you reach after you look at certain premises that have been supported. So I don't want to call this the conclusion, I'll call this the exit. Okay, so the entrance, the body, the exit. Now, this right here is the hardest thing to write in my mind, in my estimation, but the most important. And the sections that I'm going to show you that exist here are most closely followed by many academicians in their writing. So your professors are going to be familiar with this sort of mandate, with this sort of order. And if you can start imitating this in your data interpretation, assessment, presentation, it would serve you well. Okay. Now I say data assessment, interpretation, presentation because I don't know what kind of reports you're going to do, whether it's going to be on blogs or videos or PowerPoint or the old-fashioned, here's a paper format. The format shouldn't matter anymore so much. You're codifying thoughts in symbols that can be reapproached by an audience, whether it's a homemade documentary or a audio log or a old-fashioned paper that you turn in. So I want to expand the word writing. And when I mean your work, I mean anything. It could be any sort of version like that, right? Okay. All right. So up here in the intro, I'm going to call this the proposal. Okay, because you're proposing to do something. Here is where you do it, and here's where you exit and finish the job, all right? Now, in the proposal, there are 4 sections I want you to be aware of. Okay, there is the topic, there's the review of literature, then there's the thesis section, and then here's the schematic, okay? Now, in the topic section, 1, 2, 3, 4. Topic. You go from general to specific. So you might start off. A general topic might be just the way smoking has been perceived by our most recent in the last 5 years of our culture. The changing perceptions of smoking, the habit. Well, that's general. Specific might be the role that secondhand smoke plays in public state legislation or something for the restaurant business. You might just be looking into that. Something much more specific, a subtopic within the general topic. But your job right here in this section is just to make clear to your reader what your topic is. And describe it, give concrete examples. Just make sure that by the time your reader is ready to go into section 2, he or she knows what specific thing you've been looking at. Now, this next one is the review of literature. This is the they say part for other important work that's been done on your topic. Now, you'll use voices up here. In other words, you'll use quotes and paraphrases, and you're going to use sources up here. They may or may not be sources that you eventually use again down here to support various points that you're making, like charts and data and graphs and conclusion from certain experiments and definitions from an authoritative dictionary or something like that. They probably will not be the same. These are other writers that have worked on your topic or on issues close to your topic that have been recognized as doing seminal work. I mean, they're really, really good. They're important. And as you do all this reading, you should get a sense that there are some sources that do a more professional job with this. They provide more information. They're more careful with their claims. They're more rigorous. And people are respecting them and citing them. So they have a recognized voice on the issue. And you need to get the sense that if you're talking to your reader, like reader, if you really want to learn about this as I have, you need to know these voices, what they say about this. So this is your review of literature, trying to educate your reader on what some important work is that has been done on your narrow topic. Now, down here in number 3 is your thesis. This is your point. Okay? Now, it does have to be unique to you in some way. So you can't just be repeating what the review of literature says. Or like picking a favorite among that and saying, yes, I believe he's right. And then you're just saying everything he says or she says. You can't do that. You somehow have to come up with your own point to make. It can be a small point. It could be a large point. Those are hard to do. But whatever scope or importance it is, it has to be your own. Okay. And once your audience has read the review of literature, they should recognize that your point is not exactly what other people are saying. It has its own unique element to it. And you should in theory be able to express it in one sentence with a subject and a predicate. So you're saying something about something. You're making a claim that can be true or false, that needs explanation, and it needs evidence and support, so that your audience will eventually understand it and then consider it reasonable and possible and even probable. All right. And once you make your point, then down here you provide a schematic. A synopsis. I'll go ahead and call it a synopsis over here. Synopsis in the idea of a whole seeing it all at once. And what you're saying is, okay, you know what my topic is, you know what others have written, you know what I'm going to try to prove about it. Now, here comes the rest of my work down here in the body. Just so that you understand how to get through this, here are the steps that I do in the body. Here's how I designed it. Here are the sections of the body. First, I'm going to do this. Second, I'm going to do that. Third, I'm going to do this. You'll run into writing that says the following work has been divided in 3 main areas. The first area does this. The second area has 2 divisions, and so they're trying to explain to you in a paragraph or 2 how they've organized their argument down here with all their data. It's a verbal map. Okay, that's called a schematic. Now, if you have ever done an old-fashioned outline, this is kind of like an outline, but in paragraph form, and it flows better, and it doesn't have to be so rigorous as an outline. But then, once you do this, then you actually go down here and you do in the body, you flesh out what you said you would do in the synopsis. And by the time you get down here, your thesis should, come into play again, because you're getting to the point where everyone can see this is the conclusion that you can reach from the data that you present right here. So this is where you present your data. This is where you flesh out the steps and help your readers walk their way through your thinking. to get to your thesis. Notice, however, that you've already given everything away up here in general. Here's where you give all the details to back up the general points you said you were going to make here in the synopsis to support your main point. You just do it down here. And here is where you exit. I don't know, you come up with some application or some call for action or some call for future research there are a couple of techniques that seem to work better than others, but this is something else. This is just how to close the paper, right? This is the main work right here. And this is really key. And if you learn how to do the proposal, okay, then I have faith as a teacher that you have a much better handle as how to write the whole paper itself than were I to rush you through the project in 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 16 weeks, and have you do a really shoddy job. You might think you've done a lot of work, and you might think it was but in fact, when you put it up against other professional work or semi-professional work, it really is too superficial. You didn't work through the process right. You didn't do enough reading at the beginning. You didn't wait for the thesis to develop itself, as opposed to coming in with a preformed thesis before you even read or thought about much of the topic on the professional level. So I've really spent a lot of time stressing this because given the time I have with you, I think that to take it right, to take it slowly, and to develop the thinking right, I don't have enough time. But I do have enough time maybe for you to get an idea of how to do this right, so that when you are given another semester project, you can do this earlier and finish the whole thing. Because here, this is just a flesh out of the schematic. So this is what I want you to remember when you are thinking of the different stages a whole work has. It has 3 main stages, and then it has, up here, 4 basic general categories in the proposal. So working with this template, keeping it in mind, really serves to demystify the process and make it less hard than it needs to be.